Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. I think it's August 18th. Tuesday, August 18th, and this will be our chart lesson for today. And I know a lot of you struggled because I got a lot of emails today, and it's just another range day. And the difference today is your range is wide enough that you get trends within the range. But for the most part, this is a range day. But really, from 9:30 until 2, we trended up. But it's still a range day. Look at the EMA, up and down, up and down. Really, from here on, you probably could just call that an uptrend. But still, we couldn't get outside of the range. So it's still a range day. But this is an uptrend. And you can see the EMA pointing straight up and everything above it. Trade that like a trend. Same thing here. You can trade this like a trend. Look how prices are all below that EMA, and look how fast it's moving. So don't try to buy this until you get you got a good setup. So people just get honed in on, okay, it's a range day. I'm gonna buy everything down here. I'm gonna sell everything up here, or it's a trend and I'm gonna buy all the way up, and I'm gonna buy right into this, and I'm gonna sell right into this on the trend down, and then they can't understand why nothing works. I just don't know any way to describe it any simpler really than you just have to it's experience. A lot of this is experience, and that's why this takes so long, because you got to see all these different kinds of days. And somebody was asking me about a measured move here, and sure, the first thing you want to measure that. And if we start higher right here, yeah, if we keep going, you want to look for a measured move. But with that double top right there, and this being the overnight, look, the first way you know that it looks like a range day is when we open up at 8:30. If prices are inside the overnight highs and lows, there's a good chance it's going to be a range day. I say that 1,000 times, and then tomorrow we'll see that, and somebody will say, "Well, I thought it was a trend." Sure, you still you want to measure that leg, and if prices keep going, then sure, you want to look for a measured move. But look what happens. Prices break out and fail instantly and turn down. And then they come down here and they break out here and they fail instantly and turn up. Do we know they're going to break out and fail? No, but that's what we expect. If they do break, do we even know they're going to break out? No. You just have to wait and see. Draw these trend lines, because if you see this strong downtrend right here, you know not to buy right here because we're in a trend. You want to wait and be sure prices are going higher. Notice right here, you wait till you got a trend, and you know once we get back up here, there's a good chance prices are failing, and there's a trap right here. I'll talk about it when we get to it. And if you catch that one trade or if you just catch one of these, you had to be patient, because look, here's 8:30. We usually start at 7, so you had to sit here from 7 all the way to 9 o'clock. That's 2 hours you had to sit with really no trade. There's just no trade there. But half of you are trying to force a trade on every bar in here. The only place, if it's a range day, you're looking to get short up here, and you don't get an opportunity. You don't get one till here, and you get a trap here. And then you're looking to buy down here, but you don't get one until way over here, because you don't get a setup. So don't get flustered with yourself and think that you just can't do it, because you just can't read the chart yet. You're not experienced enough, and you're not good enough yet. I don't care if you've been doing this 2 years. Sometimes you don't see it, so it doesn't mean anything. 2 years is nothing. You're in grade school. If you've got less than a year, you're kindergarten. You're nowhere close. I don't care how smart you are. So just don't get so flustered with yourself, and don't get so discouraged. It's part of it. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And very few people can learn this very quickly. This pays better than doctors, lawyers, engineers. This pays better than any professional job. With half the work time, you work a couple hours a day. You have no office, no overhead, I mean, your only overhead is your computer that you paid probably cash for, or somebody gave you, or your internet. That's your overhead. So you don't have to go out and hire employees. You don't have to deal with clients. You don't have to do any of that. And this pays better than those other professions. So don't expect it to be easier. If this was easy with this kind of lifestyle, everybody would be a day trader. Everybody. There wouldn't be nobody. Very few people would want to be a doctor. Why would you want to be a doctor and spend all those years in school working, you know, 14 and 15-hour days and having to deal with patients and clients and all that schooling and all that, half of them are in debt up to their eyeballs when they get out of school. And here, you don't have any clients, any offices, any employees, nothing. And you make more money than they do, and you work a fraction of the time. It's the best job in the world, but it's not easy. So I say that every day, and then people are shocked when they hadn't learned this in, a year or two. Most people aren't going to learn it in a year or two. Not unless you're, the people that come to me that learn it within a couple of years are doing it full time, and they are doing just like I did. They're putting 16 and 18 hours a day into it. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they're putting 10 or 12-hour days into it every day. They don't have another job. They aren't trying to make, that's all they're doing is trying to learn to trade. And they're devoting all their time to it. It still takes them 2 years. So this is not easy. And if you think it is, you have unrealistic expectations. And guess what happens to 9 out of 10 people because they have unrealistic expectations? They fail and they give up. They either go live too soon and they go broke, or they don't have success and they fail and they give up and they move on. So either way, they give up because they're not willing. It's just like everybody can't be a doctor. Not everybody has the wherewithal to. Some people just aren't smart enough. Some people may not have the right skill set to be traders. I'm sure there are people that can't do it. I think 9 out of 10 people could probably learn this if they stay with it long enough, but most of them won't stay with it long enough. When they find out the commitment it takes, they give up and move on. So here I am another 10 minutes in, and we haven't even started on the trades, and I need to get out of here early today, and there are a few more trades. So I'm going to get through this chart lesson, and we're going to move on. Let me back out where we can see this. But you see the big day. It's just a range. But it's a big enough range where we got some decent trends. We had a nice trend up here, a little two-legged correction, which is often the center of the pattern. And so measure that and be prepared if we go higher. And we do go higher. There's your double top. We do break higher and it fails instantly. Just what I tell you will probably happen 9 times out of 10. Even if it's going to go higher, it's going to fail the first. So don't be trying to get long up here. Just wait. And if you wait, then suddenly you make this first leg down, and you can measure it. Generally, if it's a range day, especially a tight range, your measured moves aren't going to be as accurate because you don't have room usually. You didn't have room to make it up here, and it's telling you this is probably a range. When you don't get anywhere close to that and it turns down, it's probably either we're getting a reversal or it's a range day. Either way, we're starting to think short now. Just switch gears. I know that's easier said than done, but that's what you got to learn to do. But there's your first leg down. And so if we head on down, we're probably going to get a measured leg, but we're probably going to test the overnight lows. And the first time we bounce. Actually, I forgot to mark this trade right here. There's a higher low. I just forgot to mark it. But let's back up here. We got the second leg up. We're looking. So you got a higher low. It's not quite a doji. It's more bullish than bearish, but it still looks very congested. There's some resistance here. This is not a great setup. I marked it green, but I don't like that setup. And of course, there's a failed second entry short here, but you don't want to go long until the overnight highs on a double top, because this is what happens to you. It goes just high enough and puts you in the trade, and then it reverses on you. This actually probably would have got a scalp, but you don't. It's not a trade that we want to risk. and you don't get a lower high until way down here. But notice what happens. It comes up, it makes a little double top. So you could start your count over there, and it tries to go higher once, twice, and it fails. And so that probably means you're going to break through here. There's a little bit of room there. There's just about enough room to scalp out anyway. Just be cognizant of that, because that may say, hey, I'll skip this one. But look at it go. At the bottom, if you can catch that one trade, you're probably done for the day. Then it bounces. You get a higher low, and look at all that room back. You know we're probably going back to the EMA. And there may be some other trend line here. You want to draw this one just in case. And guess what? That's exactly where it goes to. And it turns down again. And now you get a second entry short right here off a trend line and the EMA. And look how bearish that bar is. There's a little bit of overlap right there. But with that being a key entry point, the EMA there, the trend line, everything, you probably want to take that trade. It's close. You could argue for it to maybe be green just because there's that overlap and congestion. And that's what trips most of you up. If you just avoid these with congestion, you'll avoid a lot of losers. Then it runs down here, and I know at least one person tried to get long right here, and it turns up, and it just kind of ends up in a doji. When you didn't see any rejection and you get that doji right there, that's not a good sign, because what it should do is, this is rejection. Look how it just takes off. We got rejection that first time. This time you don't get rejection. You get a little doji there after you got one bar, then another one right beside it, and then you got this one that breaks higher and it just hangs around. That's not a good sign. And guess what? It's running the other way. And all they do is run everybody's stops, and then it turns and goes right where you thought it was going to go. You got to learn the little tricks and nuances of how price action works, and that's part of it. And you can tell there's no rejection right there, and it just falls through. Then you get a first entry, and you get another second entry here, but with this being a failed breakout, don't go short right there, especially with that pushing through the EMA and back inside the range. Then it comes down, and guess what? Notice what it does here. You got this moving down, it breaks lower and reverses and goes right out the other side. That's probably going to trap some people. It's a failed second entry short. I like going long there, but you can tell a lot of people waited for a higher low, and then you get the higher low here, and technically that's a second entry long too. It breaks lower again and turns and goes out. You could go long there as well. And it actually comes back and tests it again, but the fact that it didn't take off yet, you're not getting rejection off that, and it's not going higher. It's just hanging around. Don't enter it anymore. And it ends up taking on off. It works out, but it's getting a little hairy right here because it's not taking off like you would expect. So looks like they pulled back here and it gives you a second chance to enter. But when it went higher again, people are saying, okay, we're going higher. And off it goes. And then you get up here to the high side, and you get two legs back to the trend line. We're not really that far away from the EMA. And so that's a two-legged move back, and it's a second entry long. It's not an ideal one, but I think it's good enough that you probably want to take it on this trend right here. And we're not anywhere back close to the highs of the range, and off it goes. I marked that one green because it's not ideal, but it's there. So and then we run up and we just kind of start going sideways here, and that's your first break. And notice what happens here. Notice that you got a new low right there. That swing low's lower than that one, so the count's 0 on the low side. This is a failed first entry and then a failed second entry that bounces right off of what, actually I had this a little higher at first, and I adjusted it here. But that's a failed second entry short. There's also support across there, you can see. You really have a little double test there, although that signal bar is not good enough for that. The only reason we can take this one is because of the failure, because then the signal bar doesn't matter. And you can see it caught a bunch of people off guard, and it jumps up real quick. People trying to get short in here. We're not back to the range high, and this is congestion. So, and the bias is up right now because look at the EMA pointing straight up. The big picture is a range, which we know the high is way up here, and the current picture is the bias is up. Look at the EMA. Look at all the prices. It's the first time we've even come back to the EMA since 9:45 or so, and here it is after 11, almost 11:30 maybe. That's an uptrend. Go long right there, and that's another quick easy move. And then now this is where you got to sit here and say, okay, I got to be real careful now because the bias has been up. We do have a break and a couple legs up too, so be real careful. I'd wait on a lower high, and finally you make a high, and then there's your double top, which is a lower high, still a little ways back to the EMA. That's where you go short, and you still don't get anything but a scalp out of it, and then you kind of confirm this trend line, and it keeps. You can see that little channel working higher right there, and that takes you into 2 o'clock because there's not really another entry there. So anyway, that's what I saw today. But yeah, this is a range. Let me just go over this one more time, and then we're going to wrap it up. But hopefully you can see in the big picture, this is that roller coaster range day. But at the same time, look at that EMA right there pointed straight down. All your price action is below it. We're trending down right there. Then all of a sudden it reverses at the lows, and now look at the EMA pointing straight up, and everything's above it. This is just a big range, but it's big enough you can get trends within it. So, I mean, really in the big picture, this is only a 72. It's probably a 15, 16 point range. I mean, that's a pretty. I mean, generally 20 points is a large range for a trading day in the ES. It hadn't been lately. I mean, that's been peanuts. But when the more normal market like now, this is a normal kind of day. You'll see a lot of days just like this, exactly like this in the ES. You'll see just enough to lull you to sleep, and then it'll do something crazy, and it'll start trending, and you'll get people trying to buy all the way down or all the way up, and they wonder what happened to them that day, and they just because they got lulled to sleep because they got used to this was what the market was doing. And that's the way it is. There's so many faces to this market that you can't see them all even in a year hardly. So it just takes time, and this is not easy. It's not something you can do, and I say this every day, and people don't believe me. They think they're smarter. They think that, hey, I can do this. I'll put in extra time, and I'll do it quicker than everybody else. You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head no. Most of you aren't going to do that. I can tell you right now. I've been doing this. I've been trying to teach people for 12 or 15 years now. I did it myself. I know what I had to go through. I know what I see people go through every day. And it's just not that easy. It can be done, but it's not that easy. And so the first thing you need to do is get your realistic expectations. And then if you've got that, you'll still have frustrating days. There's nothing more frustrating than to be doing well and then suddenly have a day where every trade goes on you. You're just not reading it right. When you start to have a day like that, get up and take a break for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, or just get up and close up for the day. But you'd be shocked if you just got up and walked away for 20 or 30 minutes, go walk around the block, go pet your dog, go play with your kids, whatever you like to do that takes your mind off of work or whatever you're concentrating on. Go do it for 15 or 20 minutes and come back and sit down again, and you'll be shocked. The chart will suddenly, it's like, oh, man, I was looking at it totally wrong. I see it completely now. I mean, even I can still do that today if I'm not seeing it right. But I've seen this thing. I've looked at this thing for 22 years, 23 years now, all day long, every day. So, it's a bit different for me. When you've been watching it 20 years, you probably won't get fooled as much either. But it can still fool you. Don't get me wrong. I don't care if you've been doing this 40 years. You can still get fooled. But you won't get fooled as much because you'll understand, you'll have seen everything more than once or twice by the time you've been doing it that long. But in a year or two, you might only see certain days once or twice in that whole 2-year period. and it throw you each time you see it. So anyway, I've been on my soapbox for more than I cared to be. I know that a lot of you like that and enjoy it, and never fails whenever I get on it and say stuff, somebody will write me and say, yeah, I thought you were talking to me. So it seems to come out at the right times. I seem to say the things that sometimes people need to hear, and I just don't believe in coincidences either. So anyway, I hope you learned something today. And if it was a frustrating day for you, it's just a range day, but it was a little different because we had the failure out each side, and that's not uncommon. Even up here, we it's still the range is still holding. It pushes through and makes a higher high. That's why you want to wait. Notice if you took the highest point each time, well, it might have worked, but here it would have still worked. Usually you want to wait on the lower high. But if you look here, there's a lower high here, it works. There's a lower high here, it works. Here, it's a new high, it doesn't work. This is a new high. It probably would have worked, but some of them will work. But you're better off to wait on the lower high here or higher low down here, and the odds will be more in your favor. So keep that in mind. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.